So thank you very much for inviting me to this conference, to the sustainability conference of your university. I'm really honored to be part of this, and also alongside these many different distinguished speakers from so many different countries. I think it's a great project and chance to discuss many different aspects of sustainability and the climate crisis. So thank you very much for inviting me. Unfortunately, I couldn't come in presence, but as you all understand, probably this is more sustainable to just stay within my home bounds and give the presentation remotely. I hope it will be entertaining enough so you can still follow along, even though online presentations sometimes lack this interactive element. So what do I want to talk about? Who am I? First of all, I'm Julian Kessler, as I was introduced very nicely. Thank you very much. And indeed, I'm currently the president of ELSA Austria, which is a student association, also active in Iceland, by the way, which is in 43 countries, promoting human rights and also providing opportunities for law students to their professional development and their academic development as well. I'm also in other associations such as LLP, where we give workshops on law-related topics in schools. Also Climate Austria, where we have different projects on climate-related issues, and Rotaract, which is also an association. So I just mentioned this because I will come back to this point of being active in different associations at a later point of this presentation. So I was thinking, how do I start this presentation? I just also saw the movie, or the small film that you showed us, and I think it's very it warms my heart, so to say, if people gather together in groups to do something good for the world, for society. And therefore, I believe strongly that groups are or associations are a very useful method or way to make an impact, to have an impact and make or change the world to a better place. So therefore, I also listed them here. And but first of all, let us recall what happened in the past years. We witnessed so many news articles and also on the media that there were extreme weather events, that there were floods, there have been migration flows very strongly, but most importantly, there have also been severe hurricanes and wildfires and droughts, and we all notice that the weather events are becoming more extreme and more extreme. Maybe we even know someone. I saw there's also someone from the United States. You have been affected very strongly by extreme weather conditions. And I think it is obvious and a scientific truth simply that this is also due to mankind caused climate change. And therefore, we don't really have to discuss this. This is a common ground, I think. We also have rising sea levels. I've just listed a few here to start off with this common ground. Loss of biodiversity and ecosystem degradation. Sometimes this point is seen as maybe not the most important, because why would I care if there are less species? But we have to, there's this very known example of the bees. If the bees get extinct, we will not have the opportunity to survive as mankind. So therefore, also loss of biodiversity is very important. And there have been articles on different kinds of food, of grains, and how much we are actually dependent on these. And depending on the progress of climate, the climate catastrophe, as I like to call it, because it actually is a catastrophe, not just a change. I would also focus on this loss of biodiversity and the strong dependence that we have on certain kinds of grains and food. So this is very important to mention as well. And furthermore, food and water scarcity, especially non-salty water. Of course, we know the glaciers are melting and the water gets mixed together, and we will soon probably also experience this lack of water. I also read just recently that in Malta, it is an international conference of ELSA here that I'm in Malta at the moment also. But this is an international conference of ELSA, and I read that the Malta is actually, in relation of drinkable water to the population, is the country with least water, with the highest water scarcity. So anyways, this is just to build the common ground. Climate catastrophe, I think we all agree on this dramatic issue. So the point that I want to talk about is, how can young people advocate? What can young people do especially young people, because mostly young people are not in decision-making processes. I saw that I think the UN youth delegate of Iceland is also at the conference. So I very much endorse and appreciate these systems, how young people can be active. But mostly, unfortunately, young people are not the ones in the decision-making positions. So somehow, young people have to influence decision makers to make the right decisions. And why is it especially important? Of course, is the young people's future. So therefore, we have a special legitimacy, I would say, to advocate and to have a say in these matters. So I will come back to the point of joining associations. Sometimes there is a narrative that it needs to be the policy makers, the politicians, the old white gray men, who take the decisions, but and no one actually from the broader public can influence these decisions that are, for example, on sustainability. On the other hand, sometimes these politicians, these very same politicians, sometimes say that it needs to be the individuals. The individuals, these are the ones who need to lead a healthier lifestyle, need to watch out not to consume meat, and so on. And I think this is somewhere of a dead end, because you're allocating the responsibility and the blame to the other end in both sides. And so rather, I would say it's groups of people who can have an impact, such as the group that we just saw in the short video. I think it is indeed true that a small or one individual cannot have a great impact, but if you gather in groups, I think these groups can indeed have an impact. So therefore, once I started to learn about associations and that you meet with like-minded people, this is a very strong network that you can build upon. And especially in these groups, you can motivate each other, which then has a positive loop of feedback. And therefore, I think the impact of groups is very, very strong. And there are many associations for young people. I just mentioned 4 in the beginning that I'm very happily a part of, being it a Law Students Association or maybe a Climates Austria. These are all also very international associations. So look them up, and they probably exist in your countries. As for the Law Students Association, ELSA, I know. There's also some people from ELSA Iceland here. So this is beautiful. I can only encourage you to join these and meet with like-minded people. So this is really a very, very important point. And then network. This sounds maybe like the politician stuff thing that you might want to do, or not, because you think maybe that's just too much lobbying. But actually, I think what I want to say with the word network is that you talk to each other. For example, within the association, so that you, as just mentioned, you motivate each other, but also with other associations or with other groups of people, with be it also your family and friends. So bring people together. I think, especially interdisciplinarity. This is why the title of my presentation is maybe a bit long, because I say interdisciplinary youth participation. So what this term encompasses, in my opinion, is youth, because it's our future, participation, because we need to be active. We cannot just lie down and do nothing. We have to be active. And then interdisciplinary. So it cannot just be lawyers to change the world. It cannot just be sociologists. It cannot just be scientists. It needs to be a combination of all these pertinent groups of individuals and groups of groups. And so therefore, I really think that networking and bringing people together in this sense is very important to tackle these issues that we're facing worldwide. And maybe I can also say a few more things on how to advocate for policy change. For example, as in ELSA Austria, we try to be, maybe to give you a bit of background, we stand up for human rights very strongly. We really think that human rights is very important, and they are, of course, very badly affected by climate change, because there's a lot of inequality related to climate change. So therefore, human rights, for example, but how can you advocate for these values? You can, of course, organize events, but as we all know, sometimes it's hard to motivate enough people to join events and so on. So get to the media. That was something that we tried to implement, and it was quite successful, I would say. So we could be in 2 of the most distinguished national newspapers to talk about our projects. And I think this way you reach a wider audience, and be it just very few people who read this and then maybe think about it, that can actually have a great impact. And then also, this is again this positive feedback loop. loop. You go to the media, then you see motivate each other, and I think that is worth a lot. Then also on international levels, if I say participatory, that means that there are institutions where the youth can participate. That is through the Youth Delegate program, but also, for example, the I think European Commission or European Parliament, they launched a survey where youth associations could enter their thoughts about the rule of law. And this is not so much on sustainability, maybe, but still it is a participatory element or method that young people can use. And there for sure exist also the likewise methods for topics like sustainability. So therefore, I think it is very important to stay open-minded and just look for these opportunities. You can just Google it and it takes no time. Which brings me to another point. And I hope I'm not bringing too many different points into this, but this point is actually something that's changed my life. I started reading newsletters. I received too many newsletters by now, also one from the European Parliament, and it's long. It's like a book every week, but it's worth it because if there's just one idea that is interesting in a very, very long newsletter per email, that was worth reading the whole newsletter. Because maybe that small piece of information changes your life because you're made aware of new initiatives that you want to join, you join it, and then this changes your lives completely. So I really would encourage you to sign up for newsletters, even though sometimes they can be annoying or too long. I mean, you don't always need to read them, but I really think that reading a newsletter for 5 minutes a week, and then maybe once a year you get an interesting information that makes 52 weeks times 5 minutes. That's totally worth it. So this has really changed my opinion on newsletters and being active. Maybe I'm also very prone to not being able to say no to new initiatives. Okay, what else? And have an impact on curricula and education. What is worth a lot, I think, is that in universities we are now focusing much more on sustainability. There have been more lectures in the law-related studies in my university on sustainability, especially because of the European Green Deal, of course, and that's a lot of legal regulatory framework. But there are more courses, and I think we should strongly advocate for these courses, for these education methods. So, and let's once again go back to interdisciplinary. Why interdisciplinary? And with this slide, I'm ending my presentation already. I would like to again focus on the bringing together individuals from different backgrounds. Of course, we cannot solve climate change as lawyers. We cannot solve climate change or the climate catastrophe as scientists. We need scientists to develop some technical methods to maybe capture carbon from the air. We need the laws to deal with this, and we need maybe economists to have the entire monetary flows to support this, but we cannot do it alone. And I think this is really important already as young people to grasp and to collaborate in these issues. Also, I encourage all young people to not just complete one study, but maybe if it's just a few courses, attend courses from other studies and just sit in there and see whether you like it or not. And you can probably scan through the titles of the courses and then just educate yourself on many different issues. And it doesn't need to be about the title that you earn from or the degree from university. It's about knowledge and about the motivation. I hope this noise is not disturbing. It's about the motivation that you can gather and then implement in your groups of people where you can have projects to make the world a better place, let's say. So different fields. And well, I mean, social sciences and sociology and psychology as well, they're very important because you need to understand the people in order to make them understand why what you advocate for is important. So I think you can really learn from a lot of different angles how this can help you in advocating. Also, this brings, of course, innovative and holistic solutions, and you are more creative if you have different angles and points of view for specific topics. So I think this sums it up more or less, and I think I'm coming to an end. I think it was 15 minutes, but I'm much more curious about the discussion part. And to sum it up, maybe interdisciplinary, bring people together, youth, because it's the future, participation, do it in groups, try to make the world a better place. And well, this is it from my side for this now. And I'm again very thankful for letting me speak, and also alongside all of you. Thank you very much to the organizers, and also congrats